Okay, so getting ready for a social work practice educator interview.
Oh, yeah.
That means you're really stepping up
Yeah,
to shape the future of social work.
absolutely.
It's a big deal. And we want to make sure you shine in that interview.
For sure.
Not just answer the questions,
Right.
but really impress those interviewers with just how well prepared you are.
Exactly. And that's why we're here. We're going to dive into
Oh,
Catcher's career guide and interview guide.
Yes.
We're pulling out the most important nuggets
Love it.
to give you that shortcut to success.
Absolutely. So first, let's paint a picture of this role for
Yeah.
everyone. What are the key responsibilities and impact
Yeah.
of a social work practice educator?
So you're not just a teacher in this role. You're really a guide. You're an evaluator. You're a mentor. Bridging the gap between what students learn in school and what they're going to be facing in the real world of social work. And so you oversee their field education, making sure they're learning the theory and the practice, and evaluating how they're doing based on those professional standards.
And the career guide really highlights that positive impact you have. You're shaping competent and ethical social workers
Yes.
who then go on to serve their communities.
It's amazing work.
That's pretty amazing, but
It is.
it can be demanding emotionally.
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're dealing with students with complex issues, and so it's high stress sometimes. So it's definitely important to be aware of both the rewards and the challenges going in.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's jump right into some of those common interview questions.
Let's do it.
The interview guide says that often that very first question
Oh, yeah?
is, how did you become interested in social work practice education?
It's a big one.
So how can our listeners make their answers stand out here?
So interviewers are looking for that genuine passion and interest, and I think you can do that by connecting your story to the core values of our profession.
Okay.
Things like advocating for vulnerable populations, promoting social justice, making a real difference in people's lives.
But don't just say these things.
Right.
Tell a story.
So how would you answer that question?
Yeah.
What story would you share?
So I would share an experience actually from early in my career
Yeah.
that really solidified my commitment to shaping future social workers. And it involved witnessing a student that I was supervising connect with a family in a way that truly empowered them to overcome a challenging situation. And seeing that impact firsthand ignited a passion in me to guide and mentor others.
That's a great example.
Thank you.
It's personal, it highlights your values,
Yeah.
and it shows that you've been committed to this for a while. Now, let's say they follow up with something like,
Yep.
what specifically about practice education excites you the most?
Oh, that's a good one.
How would you handle that one?
I would focus on those moments. Those times when you see a student grasp a concept or successfully apply a technique in the field.
Yes.
Those moments are so incredibly rewarding, and they really fuel my passion for this work.
I love that.
It's about the impact you have on future social workers.
Exactly.
Speaking of impact, the next question we're tackling is about your approach.
Okay.
Describe your approach to mentoring and coaching social work students.
Yeah.
What are some key things to keep in mind as you answer this question?
I think this question is all about showcasing your understanding of individualized support.
Okay.
So you need to emphasize that you recognize that each student has unique strengths and areas for growth.
Yeah.
One student might thrive on hands-on experience, while another needs more theoretical grounding before they feel confident. It's about meeting them where they are.
And the career guide talks about creating engaging and inclusive learning environments.
Yes.
So what's a specific technique that you use to achieve that?
One technique I find particularly effective is incorporating role-playing scenarios based on real case studies.
Oh, interesting.
So this allows students to step into different roles, practice their skills in a safe space, and receive constructive feedback from their peers. And it helps them develop empathy and understand those complexities of social work practice.
That's fantastic. It makes it so practical and relevant.
Yeah.
Now, what if they ask, how do you handle the student who is struggling in their placement?
Ooh, tough one.
That's a tough one.
It is, for me, it's all about open communication.
Okay.
So first, I'd meet with the student to really understand what challenges they're facing. Are they feeling overwhelmed? Are they lacking certain skills? And then I would work with them to develop a plan for improvement, maybe providing additional resources, connecting them with a mentor, or even adjusting those learning objectives.
It's about collaboration and support.
Absolutely.
All right. The next question is about staying current
Okay.
in the field. How do you stay up to date with current social work practices and trends? So what's the best way to approach this one?
Don't just say, I read journals.
Yeah.
Be specific,
Be
right? Mention actual publications like the Journal of Social Work Education or Social Work Today. Talk about conferences you've attended or professional development courses you've taken.
Yes.
It shows you're actively engaged.
Shows you're engaged. And RoleCatcher can actually help with this.
Oh, for sure.
Their skill guides are like mini crash courses on those specific social work skills, and they're always being updated with the latest trends.
But here's where RoleCatcher's AI can come in handy.
Oh, yes.
You can input the specific job description you're applying for, and their AI will analyze it and suggest skills you might want to highlight in your answers.
Ooh, I love that.
It's like having a personalized study guide.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to a question about essential qualities.
All right.
What do you think are the most important qualities for a social work practice educator to possess? This one seems like it could be a trap for kind of generic answers.
It absolutely can be.
Yeah.
So don't just list qualities like patience and empathy.
Right. Go deeper.
Go deep, right? Connect those qualities to real situations.
Okay.
For example, you could say, empathy is crucial because it allows me to understand a student who's struggling with a difficult case and provide the appropriate support.
So give them examples of how those qualities translate into action.
Exactly.
I like it. And the career guide mentions critical thinking.
Yes.
And complex problem solving as core abilities.
Absolutely.
Why are those so important in this role?
Because you're constantly facing multifaceted challenges, ethical dilemmas, student conflicts, placement site issues. You need to be able to analyze situations, evaluate options, and make sound judgments that benefit both the student and the profession.
Let's say they ask,
Okay.
can you give me an example of a time when you had to use critical thinking to resolve a challenging situation?
Yeah.
What kind of story would you tell?
I once had a student who was placed at an organization that was undergoing a major restructuring. And this created a lot of uncertainty and stress for the student, and their learning objectives were no longer aligned with the placement site's needs. So I had to think critically about how to best support the student while also respecting the organization's challenges.
That's a great example.
Thank you.
And we'll dive into what you did next and explore more tough questions in part 2 of this deep dive.
Welcome back.
All right, so last time we left off with kind of a tricky situation
Yeah.
with a student at a placement site that was going through a major restructuring.
Yes.
So how did you handle that?
So I really had to look at the big picture. I met with the student, the placement supervisor, and faculty to really understand everyone's perspective and their concerns. We then collaboratively developed a revised learning plan
Okay.
that addressed the student's needs, but also aligned with the organization's new priorities. It required flexibility, creative problem solving.
So communication and collaboration were really essential.
Absolutely.
It sounds like that brings us to our next question. How do you ensure that social work students are meeting the necessary competencies and standards for their field placements? So this is about evaluation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Interviewers want to see that you have a structured approach to assessment.
Okay.
So talk about setting clear expectations from the beginning, providing regular feedback, both formal and informal, and using a variety of methods to evaluate their performance.
And the career guide talks about the importance of using evidence when you're recommending students.
Yes.
So what does that actually look like in practice?
So it's really about moving beyond just grades or a single supervisor's opinion.
Okay.
Instead of just grading their assignments, consider using a portfolio assessment.
Oh, interesting.
This allows students to showcase their growth over time, how they've applied your feedback, and how their skills have developed. It gives those interviewers a really concrete picture of their competency.
That's a great point. Now, what if they follow up and say, can you give an example of a specific assessment method you find effective?
Yeah, one method I find really valuable is direct observation.
Okay.
So I'll schedule times to actually observe the student interacting with clients in their placement setting. This gives me firsthand insight into their application of social work principles and their ability to navigate those real-world situations.
So much more insightful than just reading a report.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are you ready for another one of those tough questions?
I think so.
All right. Can you discuss a time when you had to navigate a difficult situation with a student or field placement site?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone has these moments.
We all do. Absolutely. This is your chance to show that you can handle conflict resolution, maintain professionalism, and still come out with a positive outcome. So choose an anecdote that really highlights these skills.
What kind of story would you share?
I once had a situation where a student was feeling increasingly unsupported at their placement site.
Okay.
The supervisor wasn't providing adequate feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and the student felt lost and demoralized. It was impacting their learning and their overall well-being.
That's tough. So what did you do?
So I first met individually with the student to validate their feelings and understand the specific issues.
Okay.
Then I contacted the placement site supervisor
Mm-hmm.
to discuss the situation and explore solutions. We worked together to create a more structured feedback system and really clarify expectations for both the student and the supervisor.
So it's about being proactive,
Mm-hmm.
advocating for that student,
Yes.
and finding that collaborative solution.
Yes.
What if they push back and they say,
Okay.
what if the placement site just wasn't a good fit for the student?
That's a valid point sometimes. Despite our best efforts, a placement just isn't the right match.
Right.
And in those cases, I would work with the student and the university to explore alternative placement options that better align with their learning needs and goals.
Okay.
The key is to have a clear process for addressing these situations and prioritizing the student's well-being and their learning experience.
I like it. Now, let's talk about the juggling act of balancing needs.
Yeah.
The next question is, how do you balance the needs of students with the needs of the field placement site?
Open communication is key here.
Okay.
Regular check-ins with both the student and the placement supervisor can really help ensure that everyone's on the same page. It's about proactively addressing those potential conflicts before they escalate.
So what's a specific strategy you use
Yeah.
to maintain those open lines of communication?
I like to schedule regular meetings,
Right.
maybe monthly, with both the student and the site supervisor.
Mm.
This allows us to discuss progress, address any concerns, and make adjustments as needed. I also encourage students to keep a reflective journal
Oh, nice.
where they can document their experiences and identify any challenges or successes they're encountering.
That helps them process what they're learning and gives you valuable insight
Absolutely.
into their experience. Now, what if the interviewers ask, what would you do if a student confided in you about ethical concerns at their placement site?
That's a serious situation.
Yeah.
That requires careful handling. So first, I would commend the student for their ethical awareness, create a safe space for them to share their concerns.
Yeah.
Then I would guide them through the appropriate reporting channels within the university and the field placement organization. It's vital to follow those established protocols and make sure the student feels supported throughout the process.
Absolutely. Now, let's revisit RoleCatcher's AI features for a moment.
Okay.
We've talked about how it can help with skill identification,
Mm-hmm.
but what about those tricky behavioral questions?
Oh, RoleCatcher's AI is amazing for that.
Okay.
It analyzes your practice answers and provides feedback on your delivery, your tone, and even your body language.
Oh, wow.
It helps you refine your responses and make sure you're coming across authentically and confidently.
It's like having a personal interview coach,
It is.
but without the hefty price tag.
Yeah.
And here's a pro tip. You can use RoleCatcher's AI to tailor your answers for different types of organizations.
Oh, that's a great point.
For example, a small nonprofit might be looking for someone who's very hands-on, while a large university program might prioritize research experience.
Absolutely. Understanding the organization's culture and values is crucial for tailoring your responses and showing them you're the perfect fit.
The next question touches on that idea of cultural fit.
Okay.
Can you describe a time when you had to advocate for students' needs or rights?
Yeah,
This is about more than just solving a problem. It's about standing up for your students.
it is.
Right.
This is where you really want to demonstrate your commitment to student well-being.
Yeah.
And your ability to navigate those sensitive situations. Choose an example that shows you understand student rights and are willing to advocate for them even when it's challenging.
What kind of story comes to mind for you?
So I had a student who was experiencing discrimination at their placement site.
Oh, wow.
They were being excluded from certain tasks and meetings because of their cultural background. It was a difficult situation. But I felt strongly that I needed to advocate for the student's right to a fair and equitable learning environment.
That took courage. What steps did you take to advocate for them?
I first met with the student to ensure they felt heard and supported. Then I contacted the placement site supervisor and discussed the situation, emphasizing the importance of diversity and inclusion in social work practice. We worked together to develop a plan that addressed the discriminatory behaviors and created a more inclusive environment for the student.
That's a powerful example of how a social work practice educator can really make a difference.
Absolutely.
Now, what if they ask, how would you ensure your approach to practice education is culturally responsive and inclusive?
This question is all about demonstrating a deep understanding of the importance of cultural humility, anti-oppressive practices, and creating learning environments that respect and value diverse perspectives.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding the role of a social work practice educator
Yeah,
to tackling those tough interview questions.
absolutely.
We've explored how to showcase your passion, your approach to mentoring, your commitment to staying current, and your ability to navigate those challenging situations.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's bring it all together
Yes.
and make sure you walk into that interview
Yeah,
feeling confident and prepared.
for sure.
Before we dive into some final tips,
Okay.
let's revisit one more important topic
All right.
from the career guide.
Okay.
Career stages. Remember that breakdown
yes.
of different levels, from entry level to senior
Yes.
social work practice educator.
I love that section
Yeah.
because it shows you the different paths you can take in this field.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you tailor your answers to where you are in your journey.
Absolutely.
Even if you're just starting out, you can highlight transferable skills from previous roles.
Yes.
Your eagerness to learn, your commitment to professional growth.
And if you've got more experience,
Yeah.
you can showcase your leadership skills, your specialized knowledge, and your contributions to program development.
Absolutely.
They even have those hypothetical profiles.
I love those.
Like, meet Sarah, a senior social work practice educator who is passionate about advocating for policy changes
Yes.
that impact vulnerable communities.
Mm-hmm.
Those are so helpful for visualizing what's possible.
They are.
Okay, so let's talk about making your teaching culturally responsive and inclusive.
Yes.
So what are some specific techniques that
Yeah.
you would mention?
Yeah.
Well, the core skills guides on RoleCatcher
Mm-hmm.
actually have a whole section
Yes.
on applying anti-oppressive practices.
It's a key concept to understand.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's a framework
Right.
for understanding and addressing how power and privilege impact people.
You could talk about incorporating diverse case studies that reflect the communities your students will be serving.
Yeah.
You could also mention facilitating discussions on implicit bias and systemic oppression, making sure you're creating a safe space
All right.
for those difficult conversations.
Yeah. It's also about being mindful of the language that you use and the assumptions you're making.
Exactly.
Basically ensuring your teaching practices are inclusive and equitable for all students.
Yes.
All right, before we wrap up,
Okay.
let's distill everything we've learned
Okay.
into 3 powerful pieces of advice
Okay. I like this.
for that interview. So what's your first tip?
So first, connect your passion to those core values of social work, advocating for vulnerable populations, promoting social justice, empowering individuals and communities.
Okay.
Let those interviewers see that this work is more than just a job to you.
I like it. What's your second tip?
Showcase your understanding of individualized support and culturally responsive education.
Okay.
Highlight your skills in recognizing students' strengths, creating inclusive learning environments,
Yes.
and meeting them where they are.
All right. And finally,
Don't be afraid to tell your story.
yes.
Use specific examples from your experience to demonstrate your problem-solving skills, your
Yeah.
commitment to student success, and your ability to navigate those challenging situations.
And remember, you've got this.
You do.
You've done the prep.
Yeah.
You're passionate about social work, and you've got those incredible resources on RoleCatcher
Yes.
to help you tailor your answers and practice your delivery.
Go out there and shine.
Yes. And don't forget to check out RoleCatcher's AI features.
Absolutely.
It can really help you stand out and show those interviewers that you are ready to take on this really important role. We'll be cheering you on every step of the way.